Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha, verse 14. Woe or destruction to the world and them that dwell therein, because contrary to popular belief, we are living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days, before all hell breaks loose during Jacob's trouble and great judgment is about to come on the face of the earth, and you people, especially in America, for all the wickedness you've been committing. As it says in 2nd Esdras 8 verse 50, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time have walked in great pride. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that one people standing up and fighting against another goes into many things. Racial conflicts out here, nations rising against nations, as Yahweh, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, said in Matthew 24, class warfare, political warfare, with, conservative versus liberal, gender warfare, citizens versus non-citizen warfare, and of course, civil unrest, people going against the government, and swords in their hands. And those modern day swords, especially in America, is that gun, which there are more guns than people on the streets of America. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. What does that sound like? Civil unrest, civil war, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And your modern day kings and princes are those in the government, your mayors, governors, senators, the dictates of the president, as well as the authorities that uphold the system, like the military or law enforcement, which I opened up the video with these verses, especially verse 16, to show that, hey, there is very seditious actions as well as disregarding of your kings and princes going out here. And as it said, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. It's going to get, and it is getting to the point as economic situation deteriorates out here, people see no hope for the future. They see their government screwing them over, that they're going to get it how they live by any means necessary. But like I said, I opened up the video with especially verse 16 to preface a couple of articles and a video showing that, hey, seditious behavior is growing out here. But the first article I'll be going to is on CBSNews.com, titled, Several in Custody After North Texas Police Officer Shot in Neck Outside ICE Facility. And, Donald Trump just recently signed for the Big Beautiful Bill Act, which, is going to increase funding and training for ICE, take away a lot of benefits for people. So what? You've already got a lot of people, damn near half of the country, on edge towards Donald Trump. So, hey, we're going to see more instances like this take place. And I will give a caveat too, as it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. While you will have homegrown incidences like this take place, things like this, just like a lot of those protests in California over ICE about a month ago, are artificially orchestrated to just further build tensions out here and justify the government in coming down with more draconian measures. But regardless, we know according to biblical prophecy that there will be sedition amongst men and disregarding of kings and princes. The governments and the authorities that uphold the system. But it reads, several suspects are in custody after a police officer was injured in a shooting at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Alvarado, Texas, in the late night hours of the 4th of July, officials said. Just so happened to happen on the day that the big beautiful bill was signed. Just before 11 p.m., the Alvarado Police Department said it was called to the 1200 block of Sunflower Lane outside the ICE Prairie Land Detention Facility on a report of a suspicious person. When officers arrived, they saw a person who appeared to be carrying a firearm, according to a news release. Alvarado police said that when one of the first responding officers tried to engage with the person, an unknown number of suspects opened fire. Keep that in mind. We're gonna, delve a little bit into that later. At least one bullet struck an officer in the neck, police said. The injured officer was flown from the scene to a Fort Worth hospital, was treated and later released, Alvarado police said. According to Alvarado police, several armed suspects were taken into custody after trying to flee the scene. At this time, the suspects' names have not been released, and police are investigating the motive. But a federal law enforcement source told CBS News Saturday that local police arrested 8 people. The official said some of those apprehended were wearing body armor. The source told CBS News that early reports indicate that more than a dozen masked individuals dressed in black arrived at the Prairie Land ICE detention facility late Friday night and vandalized vehicles and security cameras in the parking lot. And you think if they've apprehended several individuals, they would release, their identities. But again, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. We're coming into a time of great deception where it's going to be hard to, if you don't have the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai dealing with you, it's going to be hard to tell what's true or what's not. We are truly going to have to rely on what the scriptures are saying and lining it up with what we're seeing. Isaiah 33 verse 6, for wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and the strength of salvation. But now I'm going to go to my second article on usatoday.com, another event that took place in Texas. And then also you've had those major floodings that have killed around 80 people as of now. So Texas is heavily getting hammered right now. 3 officers injured in shooting at Texas Border Patrol facility. Armed man killed. Another instance dealing with border security and the immigration situation. An armed man was killed after exchanging fire with law enforcement officers at a Texas Border Patrol facility on Monday, July 7th, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed to USA Today. This morning, an individual opened fire at the entrance of the United States Border Patrol Sector Annex in McAllen, Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McClellan said in an email. The city in South Texas is in Hidalgo County along the Mexican border. Both Border Patrol agents and local police helped neutralize the shooter, McClellan said. 2 officers and 1 Border Patrol employee suffered injuries in the incident, including 1 shot in the knee, the spokesperson said. The Border Patrol Rio Grande Valley sector said an active shooter incident took place at Rio Grande Valley Border Patrol Sector Annex, and the shooter was deleted, according to the agency's social media page. All 3 officers injured were taken to the hospital, according to the statement provided to USA Today by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The officer shot was in stable condition on Monday. About 5:53 a.m. local time, the statement continues that McAllen Police Department received calls regarding shots heard from outside the area of McAllen USBP station near the airport, McAllen police notified the FBI San Antonio Division and its local partners and responded to the incident. And hey, whether an incident is naturally or artificially occurring doesn't mean that there aren't casualties out here. But that's it with this article. But hey, we're coming into the times again where one people is going to stand up against another, and there's going to be sedition amongst men and disregarding, your kings and princes. And while a lot of these things seem sketchy out here when you scrutinize it, and looks like there's hidden hands orchestrating these events, that doesn't take away from the fact that there are actually those out here that are going to start bringing those naturally occurring situations. And then on top of that, we're just talking about forces that are preparing for these things. Just think about the average citizen out here when they can't pay their bills, they're out on the streets, and they're watching their loved ones starve. Hey, they're going to get in on the action as well, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. But now, I'm going to play this video that a brother posted from TikTok, which I think it's from News Jiang 1234's page, and it's titled, "Undercover FBI Agent Reveals How He Stopped a Plot to Kick Off Civil War in America." And hey, like I just said, you've got those behind the strings pulling things to bring about their agendas. And then also you've got homegrown, actors out here ready to get things popping off. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Know, and the penalty's death. I may very well have to put a bullet in the back of my dad's head. Their views are this. They believe that society is going to collapse on its own or from man-made events, and they want to speed up the collapse of society. And they want to do it through guerrilla warfare tactics.
They believe society is going to collapse on its own or from man-made events, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. But regardless, first and foremost through prophecy, we know that civil unrest and societal collapse is coming.
Take out a power grid. We take out a water system by poisoning it. So at that point, I'd gained enough trust to be brought in to the murder plot. You're talking about going and buying catch bags that attach to your AR so it catches the brass so you don't leave it. We're going to leave all of our electronics at a campsite. We're going to go to a pay-by-the-hour motel. We're going to scrub ourselves, make sure there's no dead skin that can come off. When I went back to the office to run the FBI's training, I told everybody. The 19-year-old led carbine training, and it was good. They could get the drop on a lot of average Joes.
So I guess
and he's talking about so-called white supremacist patriot groups, which so-called white people are actually the biblical Edomites. But you just heard some of the things he observed from these militia groups and other types out here. They're thinking on a level that the average Israelite or so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, and your average American isn't thinking on. You've got people out here really training to take it to the government and take it to those they think are a detriment to their precious America. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands.
I hadn't heard of this group or even groups like this prior to hearing you talk about
it. A lot of people have. A lot of law enforcement has it.
I bet, man. And it's pretty shocking stuff that we'll be talking about. But I guess similar to the Outlaws, just explain to people kind of what this group's ideology is, and then how you ended up getting into it.
Sure. So the accelerationist white supremacy view goes like this. Number one, they hate the government. So don't think Republican, Democrat, right, left. That's not it. They hate the government. They want a Hitler's Germany. That's what they want.
They shall not regard the kings of their princes. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and there shall be sedition amongst men.
Which is what a neo-Nazi usually wants anyway, but with accelerationists, they go about it by different means. An accelerationist is, their views are this. They don't believe there's a political solution that can save the white race. They believe that society is going to collapse on its own or from man-made events.
no solutions, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power.
Events, and they want to accelerate. They want to speed up the collapse of society, because in their mind, when the collapse of society happens, then they can come in, clean house, and have their own ethno-state. That may not necessarily mean the entire United States, but I can tell you that when I was in the base, my cell, CELL, was looking at property. My cell and the Maryland cell were looking at property in the Appalachian Mountains. There was a Northwest, Midwest, Detroit, out of Detroit area in Michigan. They were looking at property in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The Pacific Northwest, they already had property. The leader of the base had property in the Pacific Northwest. So that kind of compound idea, we run our own thing. We are our own doctors and everything. Again, not a lot of afterthought on some of that stuff, but that's the idea. And they want to do it through like guerrilla warfare tactics. You're not going to see an acceleраtionist out on the street in a hood and a robe, or walking down the street with signs protesting and yelling racial slurs. They don't want to do that. They believe, number one, that makes them a mark, lets everybody know who they are, and it does no good. What they believe is, let's do guerrilla warfare tactics. Let's do small attacks, like we take out a power plant or power grid. We take out by poisoning it. You kill lefties, you kill anti-fascists, you kill non-whites, burn their businesses, stuff like that, slash their tires, anything to create chaos, to start the downfall of society. So a lot of times when I'm teaching, I say, like, remember that year when everything was being burnt and towns were they're sitting up on a hill and they're laughing. They're like, man, we hope the cops start shooting these people start shooting the cops, when we can come in and clean up afterwards. And that is one of the plots we uncovered in that case, something very similar. They were going to start popping rounds at a Second Amendment gun rally protest that was going to be in January of 2021 in Virginia. I'm going to have to ask the question, and if the answer is no.
Hey, that was one of the plots they uncovered. They're going to go to a Second Amendment rally and fire off shots to what? Make it seem like, there was an incident taking place to what? Accelerate things, bring about civil unrest, which, why I said earlier in the video when I was reading those articles, you had several gunmen with that ICE situation that showed up. It could have been orchestrated by, the GOV. But as we see from this clip, hey, could have been something like that to get things popping off. So again, we're coming to a time to where many different factors are going to come into place that are going to lead to civil unrest and chaos on the streets of America. But however it plays out, we know according to biblical prophecy, it will come to pass. But now, I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And this is talking about the spiritual Egyptians as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. These Americans, especially these Edomite Americans, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom, civil unrest, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. Hey, whether going against governmental institutions like Border Patrol or ICE, one racial group going against another racial group, blowing up power grids, going to events and inciting riots, etc., etc. And with Trump, like I said earlier, also with Trump signing that big beautiful bill, that's going to cause a lot of hurt to the average citizen as well, pushing their backs against the corner to where, for a lot of them, they're going to have nothing else to do but lash out. So we can truly see that it's about to be a free-for-all with that one people standing up and fighting against another, and that one people going against another going into many things. Verse 4, and the Egyptians, the Americans, will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. And with the way things are looking, Donald Trump could very well be that cruel lord and that fierce king set over spiritual Egypt, America, who's going to cause these people to disregard their kings and princes and there to be sedition amongst men. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.